Here I was. I'd crossed the finish line faster than I ever thought possible. But then I had this feeling. Have you ever achieved something or done something and kind of had that, oh, is that it feeling? I kind of want to take you through that and more and explain that. My name's Salvatore. I am a humble 9 to 5 office worker. One of the only people I know that still wears a tie with his suit to work, who likes to sip nice espressos, who likes to lace my running shoes and cross the finish line faster than I ever thought possible. Someone who loves to commute to work and ride his bike all over the place. Someone who pushes myself to cook really good plant-based food, vegan, and not only for myself, but for my girlfriend, and have culinary adventures and the like with her. And also as we push each other to both conquer mountains and conquer life. Someone that's a doer, a thinker, a storyteller, someone that wants to inspire you, like a younger version of myself that would be playing video games and not quite sure how to step out into the big world, or watching way too much anime, wondering when or my own path and journey would kind of make sense and be able to unfold. And that's kind of what I want to go through today. I want to kind of talk about big goals. See, the thing is, I'm in this race. It's called the Corporate Cup. And I'm currently, I think, at the fourth round of it. I set my fastest time ever. According to my Strava and the segment, which is a little bit different to the actual, because it's like a card that I got to kind of do a race at the start and the end. But anyways, the segment was 17 minutes and 26 seconds for 4.5K. I couldn't believe it. I had achieved what I sought to achieve in terms of getting into even a quicker 17-minute time. And I felt amazing. I felt, wow, like I did it. In that very surge of the moment of crossing the finish line, I felt really good. But then kind of after that and kind of later into the evening, instead of kind of dwelling on that or having that residual high, it kind of faded. And it was like an aha moment, like, is this it? And that's, I think, where it's important to be mindful of your goals and kind of realize why your mind is thinking like that. See, I think the reason your mind is thinking like that is because once you achieve a goal, it's thinking about the next one or the next thing. So this is where I think you need to stack the idea of goals or smaller goals with a more bigger, larger, long-term goal. So you can kind of see the importance of having that bigger goal. Otherwise, you'll kind of just stop and that's it. Like previously, I had the idea of wanting to run under 20 minutes for 5K. And in 2019, I achieved that. But then after that, I seemed to have no motivation to run much at all, and life kind of got in the way. And I was kind of wondering, wow, how quick could I really push it? But I didn't have a bigger goal than that. And this is a really interesting one because I had a big goal as of late, wanting to do the city to bay, the half distance, which is 6K, because I did it in 23, me and my girlfriend together. We wanted to push again and do it in 2024, which just happened, and I managed to go a whole minute quicker. And that was amazing. Of course, I was feeling fantastic and I was really happy with what I had achieved. But interestingly, in the process of doing that, I found out that the 5K that I ran, even though I was running 6, within the 6, was actually my probably second fastest 5K time of 19 minutes and 41. First fastest being 19 minutes and I think 36, if my mathematics was correct on how I did it. So that's amazing to kind of see that by having the bigger goal, it pulled along the smaller goals that come with it. So it's kind of like thinking more long term and kind of helps you to push. And see, for the city to bay, like I wanted to do the city to bay well, but I wasn't kind of sure how to get ready for it. But the thing is, by joining a team for the Corporate Cup, I'd kind of had the opportunity to race multiple times leading up to it. So I was kind of really pushing myself to be at the highest level. And that kind of helped me to do the city to bay better and helped me to do the corporate cut better. So they both kind of leveraged off each other, which then takes me to my next point about why having a big goal is great. It's my second realization, which is kind of really cool. It is that by having a big goal, you have to have smaller goals along the way. And by having smaller goals or many smaller goals, you start to get a sense of a immeasurable satisfaction by having the smaller things ticked off. And I'll kind of explain. Hang on. Yeah, this year I reintroduced the idea of interval runs, which is a very like on and off kind of type of running workout, if you will. And the fastest I ever was able to run that was 3 minutes and 43 seconds for like a K. So it's called like pace per K. So the lower that number is, obviously, the faster you are, right? Sorry for my Americans in the audience. I don't know what the conversion is into miles. But basically, I had achieved that in the interval. And I was like, man, that's so quick. I don't know if I can ever, achieve that again outside of doing a specific, run like that and having to break. But that's when I started training and incorporating tempo runs because I kind of had a bit of an injury scare and I decided to invest in a tempo run, which is basically like running at your fastest speed, but you take off a little bit, like 10 to 20%, or about, I think, 20 seconds slower, 20, 30 seconds slower. And you just hold that effort for the whole workout. So instead of stop starting, you just do the whole run. And that's where things got really, really interesting. I had aimed to do, so keep in mind the distance for the corporate cup is 4.5 Ks. The city to bay is 6 Ks. For the fourth tempo run, I had achieved, of course, 6 kilometers in it. And I was kind of holding like about between 410 and 414 per K, which is pretty quick. So that's the pace of my tempo. But then here's where the magic really happened. I was able to do the last K because I pushed to about 3 minutes and 40 seconds, which basically shattered my expectations before about what I thought was possible. And I could see myself not only getting faster, but being able to leverage better pace and have what I wanted, the idea of training with that speed in a safer setting, in the sense that by the time I did the final push, my body was already warm, stretched, used to the fact, and it was less jarring because kind of my body had built up about 5Ks in the legs before that. And then if we go to this week's tempo run, which I did 6.5K, the last 500 meters, I was able to do, I think, 3 minutes 30 something, which is even quicker. So I couldn't believe that I'm kind of at that point. And that's where the idea of achieving these smaller goals, while insignificant, the idea of having a faster workout and hitting better paces probably doesn't really seem like a lot in the grand scheme of your bigger goal. But because you can see yourself ticking it off, you get that sense of leveling up. And that's the importance of kind of, or my second realization about having big goals. You get more satisfaction from getting these gains from the smaller goals or achieving the smaller goals along the way. Third realization, a rising tide lifts all ships. Now, what do I mean by that? So from probably January to about, I think, September, most of my runs, 80% of them, as they are, have been what's called an easy run. They've been between the pace of, well, even though I said 5:30 to 6 minutes, they'd all kind of been floating around the 6 minutes, sometimes a bit above 6 minutes. And that's because I've kind of wanted to just take things really easy and kind of slowly build back and not really have that risk of kind of not putting too much in during the week and kind of having that assurance that I'll be okay and not kind of running into that injury scare. But here's the thing, by getting better at doing the faster workouts and doing so many runs in terms of races and just long runs in general, it came to the point where recently I've had my easy runs, but I've just dialed up the pace a bit more. I've tried to hit more the 5:30 pace. And then the other day, I think it was like averaged 5:20 for the run. So not only am I seeking to push from what used to be a 4 kilometer distance in an easy run, I'm doing more consistently 5, or more so I'm noticing 6. And then I think yesterday I did a 7. So all these things, kind of the bigger goal, right? And moving towards that, as you progress and level yourself up, everything else goes up. And that includes like my slower runs. So if you kind of follow me on Strava, I do my runs and I post two things in it. When it's a slow run, I have a turtle, and when it's a faster run, I have a rabbit. Tortoise in the hare, right? So if I was trying to relate this something to you understand would be that you would understand would be, or myself when I was younger, video games. If we're playing like a RPG or something, a role-playing game, and we were to attack an enemy, you know, a base attack might do, say, 100 damage, right? Chip, chip, chip away. But then magic happens when we get our limit break, you know, our special attacks charged up, and we do a big limit break. Those of you that play Final Fantasy, you'll be aware of this. And that does like, say, 1,000 damage, right? And that's awesome. That's crazy. But then here's the thing. As you have a bigger goal of getting stronger overall, you level up. And as you start to level up, your base attack jumps. And your base attack will at a point start hitting 1,000. And so while you thought that was massive before, it all goes up. And that's kind of like the rising tide lifts all ships. So you can kind of start to see overall everything gets better, everything gets faster. And kind of having that as you're going towards your bigger goal just motivates you to do more and more and more. And that's kind of why having the bigger goal, something really long term, is more inspiring and kind of keeps you on that path, because you have these other check-in points as point of references to consider. And that's why it's important to have say for running, if you're into running or cycling, Strava, and documenting your first couple of runs, bike rides, to see that journey and progression, because you'll probably forget how far you came and how quickly you can come. Can go basically to say that you can achieve this within this much of a time period. And that's kind of really inspiring, not only to kind of prove to you as a 9 to 5 office worker, but to prove to yourselves as you go through the journey as well, that you can achieve so much in a short amount of time. But also by leveraging that and compounding it to a bigger goal, you'll get closer towards your goal. And that's kind of my next point of having a big goal is the long game. See, I love running and I love competition, but I don't want to compete in terms of cycling, in terms of an actual race, because that's actually quite a dangerous environment, I believe. And I've heard many horror stories. But for me, running a race with people is completely different. Yes, it can be tight at times, but it's much, much safer than actually like racing on a bike. And something about the spirit of running and the community of running is just something amazing. And having realized that I myself am someone quite small and kind of more suited as a long distance runner's physique. I'm 5'4", I'm 61 kilos. I've got a pretty okay VO2 max, and I know I can get that better. But what I'm trying to get at is, like, I can see the long game of me really seeing how fast I can cross that finish line and show and document that all to you, which then takes me to my next point, the big goal, and what my big goal is for the next 11 months. My next big goal, and this is kind of as a result of kind of crystallizing another goal, starts to come into focus, and you start to think of the next bigger picture. See, for me, having conquered the 6K in the city to Bay and kind of really progressing myself in terms of time and ranking, it made me then realize I've graduated in a sense. I don't want to do the 6K again next year, but I want to push for something big. I want to push to do the full distance, the 12K, but in doing so, I want to push for something magical. I want to set a really big, hard goal that might not even be possible, but I want to do that and document that for you. It's the idea of running 12Ks in under 40 minutes, which is really quick. It's about a 3:32, 34, 35 minute per K pace, which is blistering. It's basically like the fastest K I can do at the moment and times that by 11. It seems insane, but I have to not only get better at I have to get faster, I have to build my endurance to hold that speed. There's like two full facets to that. And kind of breaking that down and seeing that on a month by month and kind of seeing how I should be training is really inspiring because it kind of sets into play all the smaller goals. It means that the tempo runs will need to get longer and slightly faster. It means that the easy runs can kind of get a little bit quicker, like, 5:30 pace, but then bring up that distance and then potentially introduce some long runs. And kind of having all those and just going through the motion of ticking that, you can kind of gain so much experience from all those things you're participating in. And having that goal really helps you to be focused. And it's something to kind of be passionate about. When people say, well, what are you working on? Well, I've set this goal for me that I wanted to do, and that's how I want to achieve it, which is kind of my next point and kind of how it turns into my whole brand ethos of conquering the mountain and conquering life. See, for me, I kind of want to be like Icarus. I want to see how far and fast I can actually push it. I want to document that for you all to inspire and show that it's not that hard and that you can achieve it. That's where my focus therein lies, that it can be done and it will take some effort, but the view from the top and as you conquer life in the process is something quite rewarding. And that's kind of what I believe in. Now, how does this all kind of come full circle to my, conquering mountains and conquering life? So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not just a mountain, it's mountains, or so something even bigger than the idea of a mountain. But by looking at the mountain and the segments as you go up it, you'll realize where the satisfaction is in continuing to conquer things in that sense, because you'll have the satisfaction, you'll be able to see yourself level up, which is incredibly inspiring. If you play a lot of video games, watch a lot of anime, you can kind of see yourself as the protagonist and have that immense growth. And that's kind of like why the idea of setting a big goal can kind of help you towards that and help you stay on track. Versus me back in 2019, where I kind of fell off. But now I'm at my fittest self ever, and I just want to keep pushing. Obviously, not to get an injury, but keep pushing in a reasonable manner to see how far I can take it. And that's kind of what's really exciting, to have the long-term thinking and give yourself the time. Yes, I don't know if I'll be able to achieve this in 12 months, but I want to push for it. But even if I don't, I would have gotten faster anyway, and I can keep pushing year after year to kind of have different type of goals. And this kind of aligns with what felt right before, because when I spoke to my podiatrist, who's an Olympian, he said the idea of building speed and getting faster at stuff, opposed to kind of, say, focusing attention to a marathon itself, is better to do when you're younger, and it's easier to kind of build the speed and build the endurance and then the speed. So I kind of feel like I'm positioning myself in the right way to set this up, so to speak. Which then takes me to my final point, and thanks for listening for so much. If you want to literally conquer mountains and conquer life, I have a product which I call Life Cycles, my guide to fitness mastery. It's a 163-page ebook. It will take 3 hours to read. But not only that, it will equip you with every single thing you need to know in terms of how to actually buy the perfect bike for you, how to save thousands, how to get all the equipment you'll need, what you don't need from a clothing point of view, how to save money on clothing, how to process of getting on the bike in your first ride, first couple of rides, how to train on the bike, how to fuel on the bike, how to plan a ride, how to actually conquer the mountain on the bike. And then I kind of go off the bike section, the recovery, the fueling, the nutrition, the ways to look after your bike, the maintenance. And then I kind of talk about the idea of commuting. And this is kind of the quintessence of this guide. It's basically to suggest that the lifestyle of commuting, going to the shops, the grocery store, riding your bike to work, is something that's a long-term goal, and playing the long game can be built by you continually conquering that little mountain, and you'll be able to really leverage yourself for fitness and kind of train in a safer way than, say, if you were to run, but kind of something that you can grab and kind of follow, that I've outlined from my 6 to 7 years worth of commuting, to literally have yourself conquer mountains and conquer life. And that, of course, is going to be in the link below. So if you like what I have to say or would like to support me and kind of wanting to get into riding a bike, but not sure how, you can go about and figure it out yourself. But I think if you get my guide, you'll be able to save so much money and time. No, I know you'll be able to save so much money and time because I'm confident in kind of how I've explained this and what I wish I knew when I started in terms of making it really simple for you to follow and really implement. You don't have to, read every page of the book, but you have to kind of come back to it to kind of see, depending where you are on the journey or what part of the mountain you're at, how to conquer that. And that's kind of what I've outlined in that. So thank you very much. Conquer mountains, conquer life.